What if I told you some stories you need to hear to believe?
It was the rivalry of the hammer and the nail, and Boston was the nail.
You would hear Yankee suck at a funeral, Yankee suck at a football game.
The second we said Yankee suck t-shirts, people just crowded around us and bought them as fast as we could sell them.
The all-new 30 for 30 podcast. Subscribe now on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
30 for 30 podcast is presented by Mini. We're finding the best sports stories for you right now. And to do that, we're behind the wheel of the new Mini Countryman, the biggest Mini yet.
Please proceed to the highlighted route.
To find great sports stories, you have to get out into the world and follow your instincts. That's where the new Mini Countryman's all-wheel drive comes in handy. With all four, we can chase down a story in the city, the country, and most places in between. No matter what story you're chasing, the new Mini Countryman will help you find it. It's available now, and so are 30 for 30 podcasts.
Pablo?
Really? Really? Really?
It's Kalishaw, Blackistone, and Isola, and McMullen. Stories from the weekend. And that's why you don't have carbs for 15 years, guys. Let's go around the horn. Who's signing up for that?
Is that you, Tony? Is that how that works? Hanging out on the Lower East Side?
It's Around the Horn, the show of competitive banter.
Yellow card.
Here's Tony Reale.
Let's start with the position the NFL finds itself in today. The Dallas Cowboys preparing appeal of the Ezekiel Elliott suspension for domestic violence. They have until Wednesday to file. The report was Jerry Jones was furious with the suspension. That happening while players around the league, according to this Mike Freeman post, considering more protests, outrage over Charlottesville reaction from Trump. Freeman writes, last night, Michael Bennett sat for the national anthem. Saturday night, Marshawn Lynch did, hours after Charlottesville. National panel, this is a tragic, disgusting, disorienting time for our nation, one we've always lived in, one all of us are having to come to grips with. And it's also one that the NFL, more than any other league, has felt the reach of. So, Tim, we're going to start with you. You're in Dallas. Where are the Cowboys at the moment on the Elliott appeal?
Well, I mean, it's going to be appealed, and I don't think they're going to get anything out of the appeal. I know a lot of people think it's just standard operating procedure to go from 6 games to 4 games. But the league investigated this for over a year. They've already heard from Elliott's attorneys, and they know what kind of evidence they tried to present, and they gave him 6 games. I don't know that they're going to come up with anything else in a week that's going to make him go, oh, okay, we didn't think of that. We'll go down to 4. And I think the real overriding thing, even though Elliott's people are going to try to argue about the alleged victim here and some of the lies she told, and even the investigators admitted were lies, is that they believe there's physical evidence of him on 3 different occasions using domestic violence against her, and nothing is going to override that.
Mm-hmm. When the suspension came down, Tim, 6 games being the letter of the NFL's law, Cowboys thought they were being singled out, at least that's the perception. What's under the surface there?
I think they are being singled out. I also don't think there's anything really wrong with that. I think the league clearly, I mean, people argue, well, this didn't happen with Ray Rice, didn't even happen last year with Josh Brown. I think the league is acknowledging we've done a terrible job on the domestic violence front. And if it comes down to your word against hers from now on, if there is physical evidence, we are going to side with the victim.
Kevin Blackistone, let's bring you in here. How do you think NFL fans view 6 games for Ezekiel Elliott in this case, and how do you view it?
Well, I'm sure that fans, many fans will be satisfied that something happened to Ezekiel Elliott and that 6 games equates to what Ben Roethlisberger got in his situation. For me, I'm just a little bit uncomfortable with it because you're trying to figure out what price a player has to pay for being involved in this sort of transgression. And, you know, Tim mentioned Josh Brown. He got a 1-game suspension. I really don't know how you judge this. I just wish there was some way that the league could let the judicial process play out and react to that because I'm a little bit more skeptical of the NFL's own investigation into that, into these situations than I am law enforcement, especially when they can't bring a case because of whatever the circumstances may be. And we know that these sorts of cases are very, very difficult to try, and it puts an unnecessary and unfortunate onus on victims. In so many cases, we're talking about women in these situations who feel vulnerable. So it's just a tough deal all the way around.
Frank Isola?
Yeah, and this is what's difficult to accept here, because Greg Hardy gets 4 games, Josh Brown gets 1. I have no idea how Josh Brown only got 1 game. And what they're going to say is that the alleged victim in this case was willing to cooperate with the NFL. So that's why they're handing down the big punishment. I'm all for the big punishment as well. This nonsense has to stop. But I think what people want to see is that the NFL maybe be a little bit more consistent. Maybe that's going to start right now with Ezekiel Elliott, because let's face it, Tom Brady last year, 4-game suspension for deflated football, high-profile player. We're talking a running back who gained more yards than any rookie running back in 33 years. This is a big-time player on one of the most famous teams in the world. 6 games, it's a pretty powerful statement. Let's just see the NFL be a little bit more consistent with the punishment.
Frank, do you have a thought on what Kevin said about letting the legal process be, Kevin, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, being the ruling that the NFL takes away from it all?
And that's when clearly, no criminal charges filed. So this is just the NFL, as people have said, becoming judge, jury, executioner here. But I think that, like Tim was saying, they believe that they have enough evidence to support the fact that this was a case of domestic violence, hence the 6-game suspension.
Jackie, can you start there? Can you start from the point where we have a legal system in one case, then we have the NFL's judge and jury, as Frank just put it?
Well, the NFL is a private company. It's not the NFL makes up its own rules. I think we've seen that pretty consistently from start to finish, particularly with Roger Goodell as the commissioner. It seems at times he's making up the rules as he goes along, including, by the way, in the wake of the Ray Rice fiasco. That's when this 6-game suspension came about for any kind of domestic violence. And then from there, of course, we deviated from it with Greg Hardy, with Josh Brown, and so on and so forth. So let's hope that Frank is right. It's clear to me, if you want to have a domestic violence policy and you say it's 6 games, if we feel there is some kind of evidence, which I think Tim detailed nicely for you, it's 6 games. It doesn't matter to me. I don't feel like you can't be a little bit pregnant and you can't have a little bit of domestic violence. You either committed domestic violence or you didn't. So if you did, it's 6 games. I don't care what team you play for. I don't care who your owner is. I don't care whether Roger Goodell likes you or doesn't like you, whether you've won a Super Bowl. Take a stand and then stick to it, please.
Do you believe there should be an appeal process, Jackie?
Oh, he's going to appeal. I just hope they don't reduce the suspension. Because then what's the point of ever making the suspension in the first place? It seems like the buzzwords are contrition and transparency. If you show either one of those around this commissioner, that seems to be favorable for you.
Tim, you want to address what now for the Cowboys?
Well, I think in a football sense, they believe they were prepared for this with Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris and that offensive line they had. McFadden ran for 1,100 yards 2 years ago, but that doesn't mean they'll be the same. Those backs aren't as good, and if he does miss 6 games, it will probably cost them. It'll probably turn 1 win into a loss for certain.
What struck many here is that Jerry Jones, as he's reportedly conveyed his fury with the NFL over the Elliott suspension, has been the loudest owner about anthem protests. That any Cowboy that does an anthem protest will be an ex-Cowboy. Whereas Mark Davis and the Raiders have been supportive of player protests, Marshawn Lynch is part of that. We saw him at the anthem kneeling this Saturday. Michael Bennett's comments were wide-ranging on why he protested. He supported Kaepernick through it all last year. Kevin Blackistone, how do you think Roger Goodell, an NFL league officer, should read Bennett's reasoning and view Lynch's sitting, and also consider the possibility Charlottesville will have more players choosing to be active, as was the report from Mike Freeman?
Well, I think they should support their employees' right to exercise their democratic right, which is to protest and support those causes which move them. My only problem with Michael Bennett is that he had many causes, and as someone who grew up in a house where a father was involved in organizing protests, and I got steeped in protests at Northwestern University with some of my professors in the anti-apartheid movement and anti-Krugerrand movement. I know that one thing I learned is that protest takes discipline, and it takes steadfastness, and it takes clarity. And there's none of that in Michael Bennett's most recent statements. And so one of the things I think that was going into the preseason games this year, as far as players are concerned, is one, were they going to stand up again for Colin Kaepernick, his cause, or were they not? And that did not seem to transpire in the two incidents that you just laid out.
Frank Isola?
It's a complicated thing because, you're talking about when to protest. And, as an owner, I'm paying you, you're on company time, so I want you to follow my rules. You want to protest, go do it on your own time. Now, as far as Marshawn Lynch is concerned, Jack Del Rio had said that Lynch told him after the game, I've done this throughout my 11-year career, yet there's video footage that shows that he was standing during the anthem, so that's a little disingenuous. As for Michael Bennett, this is a guy that has stood with Kaepernick. He is writing a book, how to make white people uncomfortable. So I also think it's probably good for business for Michael Bennett, but I also think that he's a guy that, kind of practices what he preaches. I think, yes, he's drawing attention to himself, but I also think he's trying to draw attention to a cause.
Jackie McMullen?
Right, and I think it's hard in either case to separate this from what happened in Charlottesville over the weekend. It was so shocking, so disturbing, and I think anybody that heard about it, you start thinking about friends of yours who are African-American, family members, what have you. And so right away I was thinking, okay, who from the NFL is going to use this, again, to draw attention to the fact that this shouldn't be going on in our country? And I applaud players for keeping that in the public consciousness. I'm not a great fan of sitting for the national anthem, but I do respect the right of these athletes to do it.
Tim Calishaw?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jackie. I think what happened in Charlottesville angered most of America. It angered Black America. It angered most of white America. I don't think many people side with the protest that was going on there. And I think the lack of a meaningful reaction from the president is going to lead a lot of athletes and coaches and others to try to make statements somehow, whether that's sitting for an anthem or some other forum they might choose. And having gone through this last year, I don't think the reaction is going to be anything like it was with Kaepernick and whether he's still paying a price for that or not. I mean, I think people will do it and people will kind of understand why, or they'll just move on from it because I think there will be enough of a protest over what happened.
You don't think it'll be the same? And then maybe that played out the way Marshawn Lynch was covered this weekend, or maybe Michael Bennett is today.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and Bennett, even if he didn't spell it out like KB would have liked him to, and I guess we all would have, I've got to think it was a reaction to what happened in Virginia, and I think we're going to see more of that.
Kevin Blackistone, you want to address that?
You know what? I was really impressed by Doolittle with the Nationals, who was newly picked up reliever and pitched for 3 years at UVA, and he came out very forcefully, unprompted, to denounce all of what went down in Charlottesville and support people's right to demonstrate against that sort of thing. And that's the kind of pointed and disciplined protest through words that I was pleased to hear.
Isola.
No, I think Kevin happens to be absolutely right, especially for that community in Charlottesville. And we all have been down there before. It's it's a terrific place, and all these outsiders coming in, expressing hate. They need to go, and it needed to be denounced right away.
While true, the gutting reality is they call the United States home, and that's the disgusting fact we have to come to grips with. Thanks for your thoughts. Weekend in Sports next.
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Buy or sell.
Justin Thomas, PGA champion. Have you ever seen a putt hang on a lip longer than this? It's 12 seconds.
Oh, yes.
The reaction of other players, Jordan Spieth especially, to Thomas's win. Very, very buddy-buddy. So I wanted to get the national panel's hot take on this. Buy or sell the buddy-buddy celebration here, Calishaw. Justin Thomas.
Oh, I buy it. I think that was my favorite part. Ricky Fowler is a guy who's been trying to be that guy who can win his first major, and you see him congratulating Thomas, and then everybody's story was on Spieth trying to finish off the Grand Slam, and he was just as excited. These guys are all friends, and they're going to be great for a long time, so I think it's a good sign for golf.
Kevin Blackistone, same question to you.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong as someone who's never played the game, isn't playing the game, and doesn't plan to play the game, but it seems to me you have to buy this because camaraderie is a part of playing golf. You show up at a course, you get in a foursome with maybe 2 or 3 people who you do not know, and you rib each other as you play. And you become
That's not what's
friends.
happening here. This is a competition, right? I mean, you guys get on players today in the NBA for getting on a banana boat together. There's a lot of money in a banana boat, by the way. Frank Isola, we get it. Spieth and Thomas grew up through the ranks together, much like other sports have athletes growing up together. But we didn't see this with Tiger Woods, as guess what I'm getting at here.
I was going to say that nobody got too lovey-dovey with Tiger Woods when he won an event, but you do see Jackie, Kevin, and Tim always congratulating me every time that I win. I do think the fact that Jordan Spieth won at the British Open, the Open, and then here you have his good friend winning the next major. That probably had a little something to do with all these young guys celebrating how great they are and how rich they've become.
Jackie McMullen.
Yeah, you know what, Frank? I do love congratulating you win, but it's so few and far between that it really is a very painless exercise for me. Honestly, it barely happens. I don't mind the camaraderie in this sense because golf's an individual sport. It's not a team sport. And to me, that's all the difference in the world. And remember now, right before he won this event, Thomas admitted, yeah, I was jealous of all those guys because I didn't have my trophy yet. I didn't have my major victory yet. The funny thing to me is this guy shot an under 60 score. He won 4 tournaments before this, and now all of a sudden he's the greatest. That's the bad thing about golf right now. Every other week we can't decide which of these young guys is going to be the next great one.
And whose fault is that? You people, the media. We're moving on. Buy or sell too. I know you guys. You don't learn anything from preseason football, and those stats are fake. I get it. But last year, Dak Prescott went all out in the preseason. That turned into something. So let's look at Deshaun Watson, Pat Mahomes, and Mitchell Trubisky here from the weekend. John Fox and Trubisky. There's a reason why we drafted him with the second pick in the draft. Kevin Blackstone, what are you buying from the rookie QBs?
Well, I'm buying Trubisky as being exciting and a great thing for Chicago Bears fans. Chicago Bears are always looking for a quarterback. They didn't know Trubisky from a biscuit before he got drafted up there. And look, he shows up and he looks great in his first preseason. Looks like the future for them, so they hope.
So what did you take away from his performance specifically? Are you locking?
He actually did look. No, he actually did look good. I mean, I didn't know anything about him either.
Mike Glennon. The vault of Mike Glennon by the start of this regular season, Kevin.
Absolutely. Why not? You got a bad team. Start with the future.
Frank Isola, how about you?
And John Fox ain't dumb. Look what he did, too. He brought Trubisky out there against a lot of a defensive unit where a lot of those guys won't even make the team. So not having him start was a smart thing to do. As for Deshaun Watson, not shocking at all. The guy knows how to win. He will be Houston's starting quarterback. He should be there.
Jackie McMullen?
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson was the one that stuck out to me because he was making calls at the line of scrimmage. When teams were blitzing, he was picking up things. He was recognizing that. To me, this early on, even though, as Frank says, it's against very weak competition, you just want to see if these young guys have poise, and he did. He really did.
At the risk of saying Frank is right, Watson is going to be the most meaningful one right away in this season. Watson is going to start. I don't think Trubisky will start on a bad team, and I know Mahomes won't start for a while. They look good, but Watson's time is now.
So you hit pause on Trubisky because Kevin's point was they're a bad team, you might as well start the rookie. Your point is they're a bad team, don't start the rookie.
Yeah, don't throw him out there, and I think we're selling Mike Glennon short, honestly.
And don't put him out there like Troy Aikman.
Oh, yeah? Mike Glennon? I mean, if you don't want to be sold short, don't throw a pick 6 in your first possession. I think that's the moral of the story. We'll move on. Buy or sell 3. This was just a bone bruise for Bryce Harper means he's ligamentally superhuman, I think.
Oh.
Big exhale from Plasma 2 in Washington. The wet base is getting the blame from Harper, who's not a fan of wet bases, apparently. And Scott Boras, who wants MLB to look into how they should dry the bases. Frank Isola, buy or sell?
Well, from youth sports to the highest level, number one priority has to be player safety. In this case, the number one priority was getting a game in because the San Francisco Giants they don't come in again this season in Washington. And here you have one of the biggest players in baseball nearly got hurt. They said that they dodged a bullet. Baseball dodged a bullet right there.
Mac?
It seems simple enough what Boris is suggesting. Go out in between innings and wipe off the bases. What does it take? 10 seconds? Why can't you do that? But doesn't that first base bag look so very big? Maybe you should shave down the bag. That's not Boris' suggestion. That's my suggestion.
Kalisha, shave down the bag. Jackie Mack suggests.
Smaller bags are the right answer here. That might, the way you land with your foot, is that going to be a good thing? He might have actually been saved, according to some doctors on Twitter who used to work in the NFL, by sliding on the base.
Are you serious here? Okay.
Because, yes, I am. Because he said that kept him from tearing something. He did get an injury. He's going to be out for a while.
Some doctors on Twitter said these legitimate doctors. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it. Legitimate doctors have said this.
Yes.
Okay. No, I didn't
post
Black Stone.
illegitimate doctors.
Well, I mean, it's a variety of things. It is trying to get that game in. That's what I was thinking about. We've had some weather issues with games down here in D.C. And the other thing is what Jackie pointed out about the bag. We've seen countless guys run down first base, stride out that last time, and something happens with an ankle or a knee. Why does first base have to be like second and third? Can it be
so you make it more
side?
Like home? You're with Jackie here as well. This is very interesting to me. So you think it's the shape of the base, it's the height of the base that might be the issue here?
Well, there are some youth leagues that have 2 first bases, not specifically for this reason, but to help out base runners.
Well, let's give Bryce Harper his own base from now on.
I'm in favor of that.
Anybody notice how Blackistone put the number 2? Like he was rocking out here. I kind of like that. Kalisha, McMullen, we have to say goodbye right now. KD Isola, Showdown next. Stone and Icy Showdown. This is the last time we'll ever see Usain Bolt on a track. And it's him on a track. Eventually helped off by teammates. This is just depressing. Is this how you're going to remember Usain Bolt? Should it be, Kevin?
No, I'm not going to remember him like that. I'm going to remember him making the lightning bolt symbol. I'm going to remember all the records that he set. But this reminds Carl Lewis, his last event, gold medal, long jump, 96 in the Olympics, and that's when Usain Bolt should have hung up the cleats.
He's going down as the greatest sprinter of all time. But I will say this. I'll give you my New York conspiracy. When he got the baton, he was in third place. I think he knew he was going to finish third, and all of a sudden he got a bit of a cramp and pulled up from there.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
He didn't want to finish third.
You're in third place right now in the showdown, all right? Maybe you'll get a cramp.
It was
By the
more
way,
heroic going
Kevin,
out injured.
Carl Lewis's last event was thrown at a first pitch. We'll move on. Cutting the kicker you drafted in the second round last year after the first preseason game this year. Bucs GM Jason Light says he's owning up to it. Is he owning up to it, Frank?
Absolutely, because you know that's going to be on his resume for the rest of his career. You never should have drafted him that high, but getting rid of him now,
that's not living up to it. I can't remember the Minnesota
is.
Twins player back in the 70s or early 80s who had such a bad start to his season, he offered to give back his contract. You screw this up, offer your head on the block.
Wow.
That's really
one move, he should lose his job.
Sheriff Blackistone, chase time.
So the other side of having a lot of rain in D.C. over the weekend is how it impacted the WNBA game between the Mystics and the Fever. You know what? Their game was delayed, so what did the women do? They did something which is how we all should settle our disputes these days. They had a dance-off. Did you see Shatari Walker? That thing was unbelievable. I wish we could have this as a league. Can we have a dance-off league? I'm not talking about Dancing with the Stars with something out of, West Side Story, something like that where people line up on both sides and have a dance-off. I like that. Just don't have Bill Plaschke.
Why don't you fix the roof down?
Sharks right here. Sharks.
Kevin Blackistone, the 5th fastest to 273 wins. Congratulations.